Om Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Om Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Om Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So here we are talking about the viparyasa or perverted views, and we begin with that. First, as to the ostensible meaning of this doctrine, it is well known that ignorance, avidya, is for Buddhists the root evil. Avidya or ignorance is the root evil which is talked about in Buddhism. In the technique of meditation, the concept of ignorance is made amenable to analytical contemplation by being divided up into four perverted views. So, avidya is contemplated as four perverted views, ignorance, into four perverted views. So what is important is this avidya is fundamentally a wrong view, a mistaken view. These are regularly defined by a short formula which states that under their influence one looks for the permanent in the impermanent, for the permanent in the impermanent, for ease in suffering, for the self in what is not the self, for the lovely, shubha, in the repulsive. So we already mentioned four earlier are the lakshana of the nature of experience, which was all impermanent, evil, not self, and ashubha. But we look for permanence in that. And we feel this life is permanent. These things are permanent. Dharmas are permanent. Similarly, it is all sukha here, or ease. And there is a self here. We visualize a self. And we think all this is lovely. So in meditation, we try to look for them. These are regularly defined by a short formula which states that under their influence, one looks for the permanent. So under the perverted views, what is happening is we look for these permanence, we look for ease, we look for a self, and we look for the lovely in the repulsive. In other words, they consist in the attempt to seek or to find permanence in what is essentially impermanent. Permanence in what is essentially impermanent, ease in what is inseparable from suffering, selfhood in what is not linked to any self, delight in what is essentially repulsive and disgusting. So these four we know. So what is it wearing? In other words, they consist in the attempt to seek or to find. The perverted views consist basically our attempt to seek or find permanence, sukha or ease, a self, and loveliness. We try to do under the influence of these perverted views. The noun viparyasa is derived from the root as, as vi pari as a. As, asyati means to throw. And viparyasa is used of the overthrowing of a wagon. The translation by perverted views leaves much to be desired, and others have preferred to translate it as inversion, perverseness, wrong notion, error, what can upset, or upside down views. Upside down views, error, wrong notion is viparyasa. In any case, the viparyasas are missearches. Means wrong searches. One looks for permanence, etc. in the wrong place. They are mistakes, reversals of the truth, and in consequence, overthrowers of inward calm. Overthrowers of inward calm means losing the inward calm. So these perverted views cause disturbance, commotion. Earlier we came across these words, and we lose inner calm, inward calm. For no fact as such can ever upset anyone except when wrongly interpreted. For no fact as such can ever upset anyone. What is will not upset anyone except when wrongly interpreted. The scriptures identify the viparyasas with unwise attention. The root of all unwholesome dharmas. And with ignorance, delusion, and false appearance. The scriptures identify the viparyasas with unwise attention and with ignorance, delusion, and false appearance. Means appearance which is false. That's what it means. If what is appears as it is, there is no problem. But the appearance is a false representation of what is. That is what it means. The scriptures identify viparyasas. Means these are called viparyasas. What are they? Unwise attention. Ignorance, delusion, false appearance. There will be some explanations following this. As long as their thoughts are perverted by the four perverted views, beings will never transcend this unreal world of birth and death. As long as their thoughts are perverted by the four perverted views, beings will never transcend this unreal world of birth and death. So we need to surely understand these perverted views, means upside down views we have about this life and experience, and correct them if we want to transcend this unreal world of birth and death. It is, on the other hand, the prerogative of wisdom to understand that which is unperverted. Unperverted means an object or a vastu as it is, not upside down, but as it is. That is the prerogative of wisdom. Means that is what is wisdom. Wisdom has for its object the unperverted own being, Swabhava of dharmas. the dharmas that form our experience, if they can be known as they are, not being perverted, not perverting them or reversing them, not looking at them falsely, but seeing them truly. That is the scope of wisdom. So the right knowledge is the object of wisdom. To be unperverted is a synonym of truth. To be unperverted means not to be upside down, but as it is a synonym of truth. And the own being of dharmas is defined as the unpervertedness of their essential nature, svabhava. And the unpervertedness of, to be unperverted is a symbol of truth. And the own being of dharmas, is defined as the unpervertedness of their essential nature. So far about the philological background. So a lot of writing on these critical topics will go like this, because there are several words used in the Buddhist scriptures while explaining our experience of this life versus what is nirvana, and many words are used to highlight what we need to observe. So that is the reason why I am slowly repeating these words, so that just understanding these words will place our consciousness, awareness in the right place. Means understanding the things as they are, without perversion, without making them upside down, without mistaking each one of them impermanence, ill and not self and ashubha. If you can recognize them as it is, that is wisdom. Then you will be able to leave them behind, reject them, and then be in nirvana. That is the whole theme. We next proceed to consider the meaning and significance of the perverted views. The meaning and significance of the perverted views. First of all, they constitute an empirical mistake. They constitute an empirical mistake. Empirical means space and time. Worldly, that's what it means. First of all, they constitute an empirical mistake which, once pointed out, is easily discovered. We make that empirical mistake because we don't pay attention to it. We don't think about it. We don't examine it. But once pointed out, once it's shown, it's easy to recover from that. A great deal of anxiety and mental turmoil quite obviously comes from our expecting a degree of permanence, happiness, etc., which far exceeds the amount of permanence, etc., found in the actual behavior of events. We expect more permanence in the events than what they truly possess. So a lot of anxiety comes in. There are many occasions when we wish for events or things to last longer than they do, and fret against their inevitable loss or decay. The happiness which we expect from the world far exceeds that which it can give. And so we flounder alternatively in vain hopes or despair. In vain hopes or despair. Fruitless hopes, and then disappointment that we have to undergo once our expectations are not met. Because we are expecting more than what there is really in the world in terms of permanence or happiness. And if our self contains the sum total of all that we possess and control, then a persistent illusion urges us on. As also the Stoics have insisted, to treat as within our power a vast number of things and possessions which, even on superficial reflection, we must admit to lie outside it, either altogether or in part. So what, having discussed about the impermanence and happiness, we come to the main third point, what we consider as ourself. That is what he is talking about. And if our self contains the sum total of all that we possess and control, because our idea of the self is what I possess and what I control in total. If that is our idea of what we possess and control, then a persistent illusion urges us on to possess more or to try and control more. It urges us on because fundamentally our idea is possessing and controlling defines myself. So it is a self-fulfilling thing that you try to possess more and control more. That effort is going to be continuous. As also the Stoics means the lazy ones, those who have advocated this philosophy, have insisted to treat as within our power a vast number of things and positions which, even on superficial reflection, we must admit to lie outside it. There are not many objects within our power and control. These objects may be totally out of our control and power, or maybe partly. But however, our effort to possess and control will intensify because we have that notion of self based on possession and control. When someone fights mentally against old age or the wearing away of dear possessions, when he expects lasting comfort from a bank account, from power over others, from sexual relations or the company of his fellow men, if his mind ranges complacently or triumphantly over that section of this world which he has appropriated as his own, and rejoices at watching persons or things apparently bending to his will, in each case he does violence to the actual nature of things. In each case he attributes to them properties which are the opposite of those which they actually have. In each case he heads for a fall and is bound to be upset in due course. Of course, a long sentence and paragraph style. What he is saying here is, what is already here, if you try to fight against it, he is bound to feel upset in due course. How much control do we have on onset of old age? Very little. No control at all. And if I try to fight back, then it will finally take to feeling upset only. It cannot have any other outcome. Even in other case, which here we are attributing a permanency to this inherently impermanent body. So it is bound to be defeated. Similarly, about other things he is given, about or the wearing away of dear possessions. Anything material, composite, will decay in time. When he expects lasting comfort from bank accounts, from power over others, recently we saw many banks just collapsing, and people overly hesitated for the money. How we could trust these corrupt human beings to be making better judgments and secure your money in the banks even? So banks go bankrupt, and that is also a possibility, and it is bound to upset those depositors one day. Similarly, from the power over others, from sexual relations, or the company of his fellow men, if his mind ranges complacently or triumphantly over that section of this world which he has appropriated as his own. So all these expectations on the range of the section of this world which he has appropriated for himself, and rejoices at watching persons or things apparently bending to his will. So possessions and then being able to control. What he is doing is, in each case, he does violence to the actual nature of things. Those things are not there to be controlled by you. So you do some violence and as if making them control. Otherwise, how is it possible? They are not let with their own natural properties. In each case, he attributes to them properties which are the opposite of those which they actually have. By nature, they are not controllable, but you impose on it your control. You are trying to see them attribute property of being controlled on those objects. So obviously, it's not going to work. In each case, he heads for a fall and is bound to be upset in due course. All this we can see quite clearly in our more lucid moments, though they be rather rare and infrequent. Even though we may hang on with our very strong ego and see that power and control that as if we have, but when some sober moments come, when we realize things are not really in our control. The technique of Buddhist meditation aims at increasing their frequency, and innumerable devices have been designed with the one purpose of impressing the actual state of affairs on our all too reluctant minds. Please understand, this is how the meditation is to be seen. The meditation is to be performed and experienced. Our idea of power and control and possession, we really have no domain on those objects which we assume to possess or control. We should be able to see that fact for ourselves. That is what the meditation facilitates. We have seen those 10 steps in that meditation, how we should see. Same thing he is emphasizing here. The technique of Buddhist meditation aims at increasing their frequency. What frequency? That we really have no ability to possess or control anything. That is the thing. It is all the events happen by themselves. You don't bring them into existence or maintain them or destroy them. The technique of Buddhist meditation aims at increasing their frequency, and innumerable devices have been designed with the one purpose of impressing the actual state of affairs on our all too reluctant minds. The perverted views are fourfold when we consider the features of the objective world which they distort. The perverted views are fourfold. When we consider the features of the objective world which they distort. Perverted views are distorting the objective world. They are threefold when we consider their location in our minds. When we look at the features of the objective world, it is fourfold. They are threefold when we consider their location in our minds. For they may concern perception, or thought, or theoretical opinions. So these three: perception, thought, or theoretical opinions. So we need to examine these three. The perverted views related to these three: our perceptions, our thought, and theoretical opinions. We need to examine those. Perverted views reflect into these three. Although the commentaries are none too helpful, this further subdivision offers no real difficulties to our understanding. So this is how it goes. It's a very interesting and important thing to understand. So perverted views, we need to look at features of the objective world. Are distorted by our perverted views. So what it is, we need to examine. Second is how they operate on our perceptions, how they operate on our thoughts and opinions. So this is the examination to look at and identify the perversion that we are doing and be free from it. So we will continue with a detailed further study in the next segments. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.